Shalom!
Welcome back to the Way of Truth through Torah.
Welcome, and here we are today, and we're in the middle of the counting of the Omer, which we aren't really calling it that. We're calling it a counting up to Shabbat. And what day are we in? Seventh. You're good. You have not been reading. What? We're in day 7, and you know what's interesting is this year there are so many different counts everywhere. When you look out across the spectrum of what I will call the Hebrew roots, because we're not Hebrew roots, we're just a biblically based group.
Right.
That's all we are. I don't even know what we would call
At
ourselves.
best, either followers of the way, or you could even maybe go as far as Netzarim.
Netzarim.
Yeah.
Probably Netzarim and followers of the way are the best descriptions, so thank you for
That's what
coming
I-
up with that.
That's what I call. Well, I didn't come up with it.
I mean, you get lost
That's
because
what-
people are like, well, what are y'all?
Yeah.
I'm a girl, I'm a woman, I don't know. A grandmother.
Followers of this book, front to back.
Someone who reads the Bible.
Someone
the whole
who-
thing of it.
Well, I got called a Bible thumper one time, and I was like,
I don't thump it. I read
yeah,
it.
I guess I do thump the Bible as I'm reading through it and study it. And I'm not offended by what you just called me. So there. Oh.
I'm not
And it was a
easily
church
offended.
member at a church that I had gone to visit. 'Cause my
Nothing like being
grandkids
called a
were
Bible thumper in a church.
Yeah.
Is that a bad thing?
well, and let me tell you why they call me a Bible thumper. Because I came armed with my Bible. And I was like, it's always interesting to hear what a preacher's going to preach. This guy just took his phone and just read like maybe a verse or two and then told stories. And I was like, and then when he went for collection, he said, I don't want to hear any change chingalinging about in the plate. And I was like, oh, you won't. You definitely won't from me.
Won't be any of my coins in there.
There won't be any paper or coins going chingalinga. Trust me. Yeah, no chingalingaling here. So, guys, today, what is our Torah portion?
Leviticus 21 through 24.
That's right, and it's emor. In the Hebrew language, it would be called emor, to say. And he's really saying this because he said to Moshe, he said, say to the priest. So the 21st chapter and the 22nd chapter are mostly to the priest, but we're not going to start there. We're going to start with Ezekiel 44, 15 through 31. And let me ask you all, what does Yahuah expect of us? Wow.
Obedience.
You know what? You are reciting 12:10, aren't you? Or 10? Is it 10:12?
Deuteronomy 10:12.
10:12. I get a little backwards. Okay. So Deuteronomy 10:12, and I wasn't even going to go there. And now, Yasharal, what is it Yahuah your Elohim is asking of you, but to fear Yahuah your Elohim, to walk in all his ways, and to love him, and to serve Yahuah your Elohim with all of your heart and with all of your being, to guard the commands of Yahuah and his laws, which I command you today for your good. He gave us the laws for our good. But what does everyone say?
I don't want it.
It's gone.
It's burdensome.
No.
We're not under that burden. We're not under that law. Oh, we're no longer under that law. If you're under that law, I've actually had someone tell me, a preacher, he said, if you're following those laws, you're dead already. And I was like, they give you life. They bless you. They protect you. They help you to walk as our Savior walked. How can you be dead by following him?
I've never even been able
Yeah.
to get anybody to extrapolate out how that exactly works either. How supposedly they even get from grace doctrine to it's a curse to follow the laws. Like, even if Yahushua did come and fulfill and do away with the law, which he didn't, but let's say that was accurate, why does it then become a curse to follow? It doesn't make any... I've never been able to get anyone to articulate why that makes sense.
That-
Small burden of the law, but he's talking about the law of sin and death. He's talking about the yoke.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Paul's
Burden
talking
to
about.
curse is a big jump,
The-
though.
The law of sin and death.
You can understand anything else.
You should
Yep.
never read Paul until you understand Torah. If you don't understand Torah, you're not going to understand one word that Shaul is talking about.
Any of
Because-
the extra,
challenging.
any of the extra things because you don't even like. I don't even. It's like
Well, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they were lay people like us, and they walked with Yahushua. They speak more common language, but Shaul, he spoke Torah.
You're not a Pharisee.
He talked as a Pharisee. He talked as a rabbi, didn't he? He was.
Beware the leaven of the Pharisees.
Yep.
Careful
Yep.
when you're reading his stuff.
You've got to be careful. Well, and everything he says is based on scripture. So
Mostly.
he
He makes
I've,
opinions.
I've never found anything that's not.
I have.
So
There's
in
opinions.
some of Corinthians, when he's talking to the women, I have seen some. What he's talking to is the women of that area because they were downplaying all the men. But Shaul, he was actually chosen by Yahusha himself. So the same as he chose the other 12. So, but let's talk. Not right now, but let's sit down and
I don't
talk.
throw Paul out. I'm not one of those people, but Paul has problems, and those have to be acknowledged, in my opinion. You have
Yeah.
to be careful with him.
I've taught Paul, and I can pretty much explain it all the way. So let's talk later. Okay, so guys, we're going to start in Ezekiel 44:15, and you want to start us off?
Sure.
Hold on, hang in there.
It's on page 577.
Thank you. Thank you
Oh,
for the
good.
Ezekiel 44:15. But the priests, the Levites, the sons of Zadok, who guarded the duty of my set-apart place, when the children of Yasharel went astray from me, they shall draw near to me to serve me, and shall stand before me to bring to me the fat and the blood, declares the Master Yahuah. Any further?
Yeah, keep going all the way to 31.
Okay. They shall enter my set-apart place, and they shall draw near to my table to serve me, and they shall guard my charge. And it shall be, when they enter the gates of the inner courtyard, that they put on linen garments, and no wool shall come upon them while they attend within the gates of the inner courtyard or within the house. They shall have linen turbans on their heads, and linen trousers on their bodies. They shall not gird themselves with sweat. And when they go out to the outer courtyard to the people, they shall take off their garments in which they have attended, and shall leave them in the set-apart rooms, and shall put on other garments, and they shall set apart the people in their garments. In the heads they shall not shave, nor shall they let their hair grow long. They shall keep their hair well trimmed. And no priest is to drink wine when he comes into the inner court. And they do not take his wife a widow or a divorced woman, but take maidens of the seed of the house of Yasharel, or widows of priests. And they are to teach my people the difference between the set apart and the profane, and make them know what is unclean and clean.
What they're supposed to do? What? Would you read that one more time?
And they are to teach my people the difference between the set apart and the profane, and make them know what is unclean and clean. So the priests
Very important.
are being obligated to teach the difference between his people and other people, and the difference between what makes those people unclean and what makes his people clean.
And he is literally, I mean, you're not through reading, but he's literally talking to the priests from the Zadok
Yeah.
side of Aaron's children and grandchildren. So they would come through, oh goodness, it's left my brain. Come on, help me. The guy who stabbed the prince and the princess
Together? Like
in
sword?
Numbers 20.
Oh,
Who?
Yeah, Phineas.
Phineas, Pincus. So it comes through Pincus's lineage. Everyone that's going to be priest, and listen, do you know that what we're reading here is millennial? This is millennial. In the millennial reign, only the tribe from Zadok, and he is of the Aaronic lineage. So Yah's covenant with Aaron is never broken, but it will only be the Zadok priests that are allowed to enter into the Holy of Holies.
Where do you come up, where does it point out that that's in the millennial reign? Ezekiel 44 is about the millennial reign right here?
It is.
it reads like it's prophetic to me.
Yeah, it's a prophetic word. So, never have the Zadok priests solely reigned and ruled
Yeah.
in the Holy of Holies. This will be in the millennial. When the third temple, let me step back just a little bit, and then I'm going to get you to
Go for
finish.
it.
I'm going to step back to 6 of 44. And this is actually, let me start at 27 to 43. And when these days are completed, it shall be on the 8th day and thereafter that the priests make your ascending offerings and your peace offerings on the slaughter place, and I shall accept you, declares the Master Yahuah. And he brought me back to the outer gate of the set-apart place, which faces east, and it was shut. So this is a vision that he's seeing. Okay, so this is not actually occurring. And Yahweh said to me, this gate is shut, it is not opened, and no one enters it, because Yahweh Elohim of Yasharal has entered by it. and it shall be shut. So when did Elohim enter through that gate? When he walked on earth. It was shut after the temple was destroyed. It's still shut today. You can't go through that gate. So he says, this gate is shut, it is not open, and no one enters it, because Yahweh Elohim of Yasharal has entered by it, and it shall be shut. The prince, as prince, he sits on it to eat bread before Yahweh, coming in by way of the porch of the gate and going out by the same way. And he brought me by the way of the north gate to the front of the house. And he looked, and he saw the esteem of Yahweh filled the house of Yahweh, and I fell on my face. And Yahweh said to me, Son of man, set your heart and see with your eyes and hear with your ears all that I say to you concerning the laws of the house of Yasharel and all its Torah. So the house of Yah and all its laws that govern it. And that's what's in Leviticus 21 and 22. And you shall set your heart to the entrance of the house with all the exits of the set apart place. And you shall say to the rebellious, to the house of Yasharel, thus said the Master Yahweh, O house of Yasharel, enough of all of these abominations of yours. Who's been abominable? The house of Yasharel. How many tribes are there? 10. And there's also some Yehudites and some Benjamites that are included in these. Listen, there's always a scattering of everyone in amongst the other tribes. He said that you brought in sons of a foreigner, uncircumcised in heart and uncircumcised in flesh, to be in my set apart place to profane it, my house, that you brought near my food, the fat and the blood, and you broke my covenant because of all your abominations. And you did not guard the charge that was set, that which is set apart to me, but you have set others to guard the charge of my set apart place for you. Listen, everything that Yah gives us in Leviticus, in the whole Torah, he intended for it to be followed to the T. Even down to, as Ashley read a while ago, don't wear wool into the set apart place. Why? He goes on to say, no sweat is to be in the set apart place. Why? The Holy of Holies. Why? There's a lot of electrical current bouncing about from wall to wall. You don't want to be in there with wool sweating. That's the last place you want to be, sweating. Okay, in 9, he says, thus said the Master Yahweh, no son of a foreigner, uncircumcised in heart, or uncircumcised in flesh. So both spiritual and physical. No foreigner, no son of a foreigner comes into my set apart place. This is what he tells us in 21 in Leviticus. No foreigner is to enter. No one outside the tribe of Levi is to enter the Holy of Holies. It's not done. Well, the house of Yasharel did that through Jeroboam. Let's see. And even any son of a foreigner who is amongst the children of Yasharel. See, he includes even Israel. Even if you're a house of Israel, you don't come into my set apart place. Only the tribe of Aharon. And the Levites who went far from me when Yasharel went astray, who strayed away from me after their idols, they shall bear their crookedness. They will never again be allowed into the Holy of Holies. Only the tribe of Zadok. So when Yahusha builds his third temple, who's going to be in there?
The Zadok priesthood.
The Zadok priesthood. They are the ones who will minister before him in the Holy of Holies. But listen, our Father is so merciful. They're still going to get to be part of it. He's not going to exclude them completely. See, he said they were attendants in my set apart place as gatekeepers of the house and attendants of the house, slaying the ascending offering and the slaughtering for the people, and standing before them to attend to them, because they attended to them before their idols. Here we go. Here's what they did. They attended to them before their idols and became a stumbling block of crookedness to the house of Yasharel. Therefore I have lifted up my hand in an oath against them, declares the Master Yahweh, that they shall bear their crookedness and not come near me to serve as my priest, nor come near any of that which is set apart to me, nor into the most set apart place, and they shall bear their shame and their abominations which they have done. Yet, and here's his mercy, yet I shall make them those who guard the duty of the house for all its work and for all that has to be done in it. So y'all are saying, you Levites, everyone who's not of the house of Zadok, you still get to do some work. You still get the honor of being part of the temple. But you don't get to come near anything that's holy and set apart. You don't get to come near my presence. So that will be their punishment once the third temple is rebuilt. And there will be sacrifices, guys. There's going to be sacrifices. People don't want to hear that. But there will be sacrifices in the third temple because people are going to eat Thanksgiving offerings, peace offerings. Who was our sin offering? Yahushua.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, he's there. Of course, if you continue to sin, he can't be thrown back up on the cross, right? He's already done what he came to do the first time. He will come the second time, and we're going to see that shortly. And Abba's timing is so perfect. Now, you want to continue?
Sure.
Did that answer anybody's? Did that help understanding? So, guys, listen.
But like Ezekiel, he's writing and prophesying and stuff in Babylonian captivity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is he talking about when they come out of captivity, or is he talking about like now?
Well,
You know what I mean?
it's millennial is when he's talking about, because the Levites still were working in the temple.
Yeah, my presumption that it's millennial is the fact there's never been a Zadok priesthood.
Yeah. So
Yahusha is the Melchizedek, right?
he's the high priest. He's actually of the lineage of Levi
Melchizedek.
as well as Yehuda. So he's actually from both sides.
Right.
So he was in the line for high priest. It's kind of a round and about, but he could have been high priest without having to buy it.
Ezekiel 44, 24. And they are to stand as judges in a dispute, and judge it according to my right rulings. And they are to guard my Torah and my laws in all my appointed times, and set apart my Sabbaths.
I mean, there again, these priests were supposed to be doing this all along. Were they? No. What did Yahushua tell them when he walked? He said, you're telling people not to give to their parents, not to honor their parents, yet you worry about the tithing of the mint and the little herbs. Yet you tell them to forsake their parents.
Yeah, you'll cross the street if there's someone in need, but you'll make sure that
That's
little
right.
tithe gets into the plate.
What was the commandments? Honor your father and your mother so that it will go well for you in the land. They were teaching them not to honor the father and mother, take care of the temple first. And really, it wasn't taking care of the temple, it was take care of me.
Yeah.
That's what the priests were saying. Take care of me first. I want some of that mint. Wait, did you tithe, your percentage of mint? Don't worry about your mom and dad. So they were crooked probably from 167 BC, Kaylin, right? Somewhere around there? The Pharisees and the rabbis? No?
I don't know.
Is that about when the rabbis came to be and they created the Talmud?
That was at least
About
at
167,
minimum, it was
200 BC?
it could go as far as 3 or 4.
Further
I
back?
don't know how far back it goes.
Okay.
I'd have to go check some of the dates.
But it was before Yahushua came.
Around 400 or 500 BC
Yeah.
when they come out, so it had to come.
That's why I'm saying it could have been 300 or 400 even.
So, yeah.
For sure by at least 150
by that.
BC it had fully taken hold.
Yep.
And it was the religion at that point.
Yep. So we've got these false teachers. They're not teaching what they're supposed to be teaching. They're not teaching the people to set apart the holy
Yeah.
and the profane. They're not teaching any of that.
Failing from the start.
They were. They sure were. And listen, if they weren't teaching them the clean from the unclean, they weren't even teaching them what was food.
No.
I had one of the teachers, Dale. Y'all remember Dale? He told me that underneath the temple, guess what was down there? Oyster shells. Why would you have oyster shells under the temple? Because you were eating the oysters. I mean, that would be the only reason you would have the shells under there, unless they were, I don't know, using them for
Unless they used them for
pavement.
Yeah, that's the only other reason
Yeah.
I can imagine. And oyster shells don't really make a good caliche because they turn to powder over time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Ezekiel 44:25. And they are not to defile themselves by coming near a dead man, only for a father or mother, for a son or daughter, for a brother or unmarried sister they defile themselves. And after his cleansing they count 7 days for him. And on the day that he comes into the inner court of the set-apart place, to attend in the set-apart place, he brings his sin offering, declares the Master Yahuah. And it shall be to them for an inheritance. I am their inheritance, and you give them no possession in Yasharel. I am their possession. The grain offering and the sin offering and the guilt offering they are to eat, and all that is dedicated in Yasharel is theirs. And the first of all the first fruits of all, and every contribution of all your contributions belong to the priests. And the first of your ground meal you give to the priest, so that a blessing rests on your house. The priests are not to eat any bird or beast found dead or torn to pieces.
Guys, a lot of this is repetition from what he's telling them in Leviticus. But another good sign that this was millennial, Jack, is the fact that the gate was not closed when Yahushua walked. Okay? So it will be closed in the future. When the temple was destroyed, when was it destroyed? 70 AD. After it was destroyed, it says that not one stone was left on top of another. The walls are still there. So I don't know, are those the walls of the temple? I don't know. But the gates closed, and it has not been opened since. So that's one really good piece of evidence that prior to the temple being destroyed, it was open. After, it's closed. And he's telling them here it's going to be closed because it's where Yahushua walked through. And Yahushua was, during what? Up to, say, 33 AD.
Somewhere in there.
So you're seeing right here everything that the priest didn't do, that he commended them over here. Let's go back to Leviticus 21. And so before we go there, though, we're going to take a little detour. What did I say in the beginning? What does he expect from us? To be holy and set apart. Mm-hmm. He wants us to be his obedient children. Go to Luke 16:10 through 17.
Luke 16:10 through 17.
1006. Our page announcer is not here right now.
Luke 16:10. He who is trustworthy in what is least is trustworthy also in much, and he who is unrighteous in what is least is unrighteous also in much. If, therefore, you have not been trustworthy in the unrighteous mammon, who shall entrust to you the true? And if you have not been trustworthy in what is another man's, who shall give you what is your own? No servant is able to serve two masters, for either he shall hate the one and love the other, or else he shall cling to the one and despise the other. You are not able to serve Elohim and Mammon. And the Pharisees who loved silver also heard all this and were sneering at him. So he said to them, You are those who declare yourselves righteous before men, but Elohim knows your hearts, because what is highly thought of among men is an abomination in the sight of Elohim. The Torah and the prophets are until Yohanan. Since then the reign of Elohim is being announced, and everyone is doing violence upon it. And it is easier for the heaven and the earth to pass away than for one tittle of the Torah to fall.
Hello. What did he just say? It is easier for the heaven and the earth to pass away than for one little tittle of the Torah to fall. A tittle is those little bitty tiny marks, guys, that helps you to pronounce things properly. So the Torah and the prophets are until Yochanan. Since then, the reign of Elohim is being announced. Why? Yahushua was there. Yahushua was the reign of Elohim. And everyone is doing violence upon what? Upon the Torah and upon the prophets. And they're still doing violence. I'm sorry?
Reference verse there, Ezekiel 22, your priests have violated my Torah and profaned my holy things. They have put no difference between holy and profane. Neither they show the difference between unclean and the clean. They have hid their eyes from me and from my Sabbaths and have profaned among them.
That's exactly it. That is exactly it, Jack. So if the priests are doing everything wrong, should they even be teaching? Should they even be leading? No. But here's the whole point behind this. You cannot serve two masters. You can't serve two masters. You can't, and we're going to be getting into the feast today. You can't serve Yah and Satan at the same time. You can't tithe to Yah and Satan at the same time. They were. They were, and I'm going to tell you, the people who are tithing to the churches today, who are they tithing to?
Satan.
The false prophet, the false Messiah, the lawless one. That's who they're teaching, and that's not all churches. That is not all churches. There are some churches out there, they are good, they're solid, they're teaching the commandments. They may still call him God, and they may still call him Jesus, but they're saying he is the law. He is the walking, talking, living, breathing word of Yah. Those churches are not teaching falsehood, but the ones that are teaching the law's been done away with,
But there's very few churches that teach that.
you're exactly right. But I want to make sure that everybody understands there are a few out there. And so I'm not saying this about everyone because I'm going to get a lot of people shutting us off over this. But guys, listen, we are very close to the end of days. Very close. Enoch was written for this final generation. And if you look about, the whole world is falling apart because the Torah is what holds it together. The Torah is a very memory, it's a very fabric that holds everything together. And as everyone tramples it, and what does it say here? Do violence to his Torah. What happens to the Torah? If you're doing violence to it, it's falling apart for them. Is it falling apart for you? No. It's your protection.
There's a cross-reference to Zephaniah 3:4. Is that the one you read, Jack? Or
Now
is-
he read
No,
Ezekiel
I read-
22.
You read Ezekiel? So
And-
Zephaniah 3:4. Her prophets are reckless, treacherous men. Her priests have profaned the set-apart place. They have done violence to the Torah. Yahuah is righteous in her midst. He does no unrighteousness. Morning by morning he brings his right ruling to light. It has not been lacking, yet the unrighteous one knows no shame.
So listen to all of the scripture verses that are backing exactly what Yahusha is talking about here. What verse was that?
Zephaniah 3:4.
So guys, he wants us to be set apart. He doesn't want you to look like everyone else. He doesn't want you to do the things that everyone else is doing. Go to 1 Corinthians 10. We're going to read the whole thing.
Oh, my favorite. That's really good.
1 Corinthians 10:1. For I do not wish you to be ignorant, brothers, that all our fathers were under the cloud, and all passed through the sea, and all were immersed into Moshe in the cloud and in the sea, and all ate the same spiritual food, and all drank the same spiritual drink. For they drank of that spiritual rock that followed, and the rock was Messiah. However, with most of them, Elohim was not well pleased, for they were laid low in the wilderness.
Wait, with most of them, how many made it into the promised land? I mean, seriously.
Well, he let the ones die that started the journey, so...
That's
Two.
exactly two. Thank you, Kaylin. And one of them was Caleb, and the other was
It was-
Yahushua. That's right.
They went in circles till they all died.
They did. How would you like to go around that mountain and around that mountain and around that mountain? I mean, they did. So I love the way he puts it here. I don't wish you to be ignorant, brothers, that all our fathers, all of their fathers, all of their forefathers were immersed through the Red Sea with Moshe, right?
Yeah?
They all ate the same food. They drank the same spiritual drink. But did it change them? They still rebelled.
Yeah, the flesh sucks.
Listen, everybody reads the same Bible. Oh, wait. Do they really?
No.
They're not reading the front of it. Hello? Wake up. You got to read the front of it to understand. Who starts a book at the back?
Christians.
Crazy people.
Crazy. We've got from the mouth of a youth, crazy people. People who just want to see how it ends up. Well, you got to know how it starts. It's a book. It's the same book from the front, beginning to the end. Okay, keep going. I'm sorry.
No worries. 1 Corinthians 10:6. And these became examples for us, so that we should not lust after evil as those indeed lusted. And do not become idolaters as some of them, as it has been written. The people sat down to eat and to drink and stood up to play.
Okay, where did that happen? Where did they sit down to eat and drink and stood up to
At the
play?
base of Mount Sinai.
At the base of Mount Sinai, while Moshe was up on the mountain. And what did they play with? A golden calf that they told Aharon, here's our gold, you make us a god. And they, poor Aharon, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hit the speaker. Poor Aharon had just witnessed them killing her And he's like, okay. So what did he do? He tossed all the gold in there and out popped a gold calf.
Yeah. Half voted for Moloch, the other half voted for Baal, but they all got a golden calf.
Boy.
Funny meme I saw the other day.
But they paid for it, didn't they? They drank that golden calf.
Indeed. 1 Corinthians 10:8. Neither should we commit whoring, as some of them did, and in one day 23,000 fell.
Where was that? Where did that happen? Numbers 25. Listen, guys, everything that Shaul is talking about here is in the front of the book. It's in the front of the book. In Numbers, what did Baal do? Balaam. What did he do? He was like, look, I can't curse Yasharal for you,
Right.
but what I can do is I can tell you how
Trick
to
'em.
catch them. Just, fancy up your women, put them at the doors of the tents, cause the men to come in and sin with them. Adultery, which will lead to idolatry. And what happens then? You've got them. They've sinned.
Yep.
And how many fell that day?
23,000.
23,000 passed that day. What stopped it? Pincus.
Oh, yeah.
Pincus is the one that broke that plague. He caught Zimri, and what was the princess's name? So Zimri was of the tribe of Simeon,
I don't recall.
and there was a princess which was a Median. She was from Median. She was a Midianite princess, and they were in the tent, and they were not very good children. And what did Pincus do? He went in there and he stuck them with a spear through both of them. And if you go to the book of Yashar, he paraded them through the camp. This is what happens when you disobey Yah's commandments. And Yah made an everlasting covenant with Pincus. I'm sorry, go ahead, Sherry. Cosby.
Bill Cosby.
You say Cosby, I say Cosby.
How you say it? Cosby.
So Cosby and Zimri were the two. Thank you very much. So those are the two that he poked through, but that's what stopped that plague, was one man doing a righteous act. Murder in that instance was righteous because it had caused the plague. He paraded this woman into his tent in front of all of the people who were there mourning and praying for Yasharal. He paraded her right before them. Pincus fixed that. Okay, I'm sorry. We're just going to keep stopping.
No worries. We got a learning to do. Neither let us try Messiah, as some of them also tried and were destroyed by serpents. Neither grumble, as some of them also grumbled and were destroyed by the destroyer.
And both of these happened in the wilderness. If you don't understand the front of the book, you have no idea what they're talking about here. They grumbled, and what happened with the serpents? They were snake bit. I mean, literally, they were dying from the snake bites. The asps were biting them. So what did Yah tell Moshe to do?
Put the serpent thing up.
Erect. He really set a seraphim on a pole, and he erected it and held it up, and when the people looked at it, they were healed and they would live. What happened to that serpent years later? They idolized it. They had to destroy it. Listen, you can't have anything physical. You're going to idolize it. You're going to turn it into an idol, no matter what. We don't have good sense, do we? Let's worship that piece of bronze. Forget Yah. Worship the bronze. And they were also grumbling, and they were destroyed by the destroyer. Those who didn't make it in, we don't know what happened to them. Okay.
Probably wasn't good.
It probably wasn't.
And all these came upon them as examples, and they were written as a warning to us on whom the ends of the ages have come, so that he who thinks he stands, let him take heed lest he fall.
He's talking to all of us, guys. Shaul is talking to every single one of us. The laws have not been done away with. Respect, reverence, and loving Yahweh with all your heart, mind, and soul, it is still in play today, which means if you love him, you obey him. He's our daddy. He's our creator. It doesn't mean you go, I don't have to mind your rules. I don't have to do what you're telling me to do. Things have changed. What's changed? Our Savior, people have changed. Our Savior came, he walked it out to show us how to do it. Did anything else change? He said, if you love me, you're going to keep my commands. Did anything else change? No. His commands are from the front, in the front of the book. Who gave the commandments on Sinai? Y'all know this. Yahushua. He gave those commands. He is the commands. Look at John. Sorry. Look at John. Look at John 1. 1:1. John, his very best buddy friend, right? He said, in the beginning was the Word. Who's the Word? Yahushua. Okay, so in the beginning, which in the beginning, Bereshit, it means in the beginning, right? In the very beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Elohim, and the Word was Elohim. He was in the beginning with Elohim, and everything that was created came to be created through Yahushua, through Him. And without Him, not even one came to be that came to be. In Him was life, and the life was the light of men. John knew who Yahushua was. He's the Word. He was a walking, talking, living, breathing Word. Nothing's changed. John wrote this how many years after Yahushua was gone? If he thought anything different, guys, he would have said something different. He didn't write this while Yahushua was still on the plane. This came to be probably 50, 60 years later. And it wasn't published into a Brit Hadashah or the New Testament for about 200 years. So there wasn't a New Testament. So what were they being obedient to?
The Torah.
The Torah. The Tanakh, the whole Old Testament. This is what they learned from. This is what they taught from. So to think that there was anything new that got rid of anything that Yahushua told us to do in the front of the book is an out-and-out lie from Hasatan.
Yep.
You can't sit at both tables, guys. You got to sit at Yahushua's, and if you're not at his table, I'm going to tell you whose table you're at. Hasatan. Okay? In everything he told you to do. Okay, I'm sorry, I lost our place. So you've got to find it.
1 Corinthians 10:13.
Okay.
No trial has overtaken you except such as is common to man. And Elohim is trustworthy, who shall not allow you to be tried beyond what you are able, but with the trial shall also make the way of escape, enabling you to bear it. Therefore, my beloved ones, flee from idolatry. I speak as to wise men. Judge for yourselves what I say. The cup of blessing which we bless, is it not a sharing in the blood of Messiah? The bread that we break, is it not a sharing in the body of Messiah? Because there is one bread, we who are many are one body, for we all partake of the one bread. Look at Yasharel after the flesh. Are not those who eat of the slaughtering sharers in the slaughter place? What then do I say? That an idol is of any value? Or that which is slaughtered to idols is of any value? No, but what the nations slaughter, they slaughter to demons and not to Elohim. And I do not wish you to become sharers with demons.
And that's exactly what I'm saying about when you donate money to a church, who are you sharing your funds with? It's not with Yah.
No.
It's not going to Yah. It is going to push forth the lie that has come directly from the seminary. I know I sound mean and ugly today, but I'm just tired of this lie. I'm tired of people being led astray. It is time that people wake up. Shay, don't look at me like I am mean and Shay's like,
when you're evil.
Shay's like, she is evil. Guys, we have got to stand up, and today is a day that we need to start standing up, and we have to be bold, and we have to tell truth, and stop allowing the lies to be spread with our loved ones, with our friends, with our family. We've got to be bold. Okay.
Sometimes easier said than done, but
It's
it's a
way
requirement.
Well, and listen, most of us have already lost most of our family because are you invited to all
You're
the
crazy.
hmm?
Because you're crazy.
What'd you say about me? But that is what they say. They're like, I think she's in a cult now. Okay.
Or she's turning her family Jewish.
Yeah, she thinks she's a Jew. It's just all kinds of. But listen, if you're doing what Yah is telling you to do, He's got your back.
Yeah.
And if He's for you, who can be against you? If you're carrying out His commandments.
And why, maybe it's easier said than done. Maybe I'm different than some people. I don't know, but who cares?
Well, and I've gotten to the place that it doesn't matter. I mean, it matters that you're not following his commands. That matters to me. But what
Well,
you
yeah,
think
that
of me in my walk
That's what I mean.
does not matter, because I'm going to do
I'm
what my
concerned.
dad has told me to do.
Yeah.
I love him with all my heart, and I'm just going to continue to walk this walk out. I've walked it too long. It's a solo walk, and it's not meant to be a broad walk with a whole crowd of people around. It's meant to be a remnant. Listen, when you get in a crowd, sometimes it's easy to start doing what the crowd's doing. When you're with a remnant, you're accountable. When everyone in this room holds each other accountable.
There's an experiment that was done, and I don't remember what it was called. It won't come to me. But Stanford University did an experiment in the late 70s, and then they repeated the experiment at Cambridge, I believe, in the 90s. And the experiment basically was there's 5 people in the room and an instructor. And the 6th person that comes into the room is the only person that doesn't know what's going on. And so they take lines and they draw a line, and all the lines are different sizes. And you have one which is the reference line, and one of the 4 lines is the same length as the reference line. Well, what all of the people who are in on it have been told is you're all going to pick the wrong number each time. And so whatever the first person picks that's the wrong answer, everyone else in the room is going to answer that, except for the test subject who comes in. They're going to answer, not last, but somewhere after the first 3 people answer. And the point of the test is to see, will they answer the question correctly according to what they can see right in front of their face, or will they go with the crowd? And what's amazing is 80% of the recipient or the respondents went with the crowd. So they sat there, you could see that these 2 items were not the same thing, but because the crowd said that this was, the correct answer, the person, even though they knew this was the correct answer, they said this. It's astonishing.
Go along to get along.
They don't want to be judged.
They don't want to be, you're right, they don't want to be judged. They don't want to be different. They don't want to stand out from the rest of these guys that are saying, well, A and C are the same, and I know that A and D are the same. But, hey, A and C, yeah, I'll go with that.
Yeah, and Abba's calling us to be the one that answers correctly.
You're right.
And you can see it on the faces of the people, because they're like looking at the people down from them like, but they're idiots. And then they'd answer the same thing.
Wow, that is crazy.
It is crazy. I have lost my place.
Okay.
21,
Yes.
thank you. All right, so 1 Corinthians 10:21. You are not able to drink the cup of the master and the cup of demons. You are not able to partake of the table of the master and of the table of demons. Do we provoke the master to jealousy? Are we stronger than he? All is permitted me, but not all do profit. All is permitted me, but not all build up. Let no one seek his own, but each one that of the other. You eat whatever is sold in the meat market, asking no questions because of conscience, for the earth belongs to Yahuah and all that fills it. And if any of the unbelievers invite you and you wish to go, you eat whatever is set before you, asking no question on account of the conscience.
Guys, do y'all understand that this is not talking about anything other than food? I want you to understand, when you go to the meat market, first of all, are you going to buy anything but food?
No.
Okay. So when you go, don't ask questions as to who was this slaughtered to? Does it matter to you? No. Well, it's like Ashton said a while ago, doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter if it was offered to idols. What's an idol? A piece of rock? A piece of wood? But here, if anyone says to you, this was slaughtered to idols, don't eat it. Because guess what they're going to think? Well, Ashton's eating this because it was offered to idols. He's not talking about pig. He's not talking about shrimp. He's not talking about lobster.
Because that ain't food.
That's not food. If you go to the meat market, you're going to the meat market to buy food. You're going to buy cattle, sheep, goat, deer, fish that have scales and fins. You're not going to buy slimy things or
Shrimp scampi.
shrimp scampi or shrimp scampi. So Paul is specifically talking to everyone. But what he's telling you here is if you eating that piece of meat because it was offered to an idol causes Seth over here to sin, because he thinks that it's important that it was offered to an idol. If it causes him to stumble, don't eat it.
I think it's a point of conscience also, because he's saying if you don't know, you don't need to go and question the people on account of the conscience. But if they tell you this was slaughtered to idols, well, now you're aware. You're no longer blissfully ignorant. You know this meat was slaughtered and given to idols. Then your conscience has been invoked. You know you can't eat that, and so you then don't eat it.
But that would be if it's going to affect someone else, because he says all things are permitted me, but not all profit. So it's going to be very dependent. It would be dependent, just like if you're going out to eat with another couple, and you're going to have a glass of wine with your meal. You and your wife are going to have a glass of wine with your meal, but you know that the couple that's with you has got a drinking problem.
Oh, yeah.
Then you're not going to drink in front of them, and you're not going to tempt them to do so. But if you know that it was offered to idols, and no one's pointing it out, but you say they tell you when you buy the meat, it was offered to idols, but there's no one with you that's going to be affected, you can eat it. It's a piece of rock. It's a piece of wood. You're not giving it. Well, there is no power. You can't give it power because there's no power there.
Exactly.
So in the case where, like, okay, I think all of Popeye's chicken is halal. So that means
Oh, really?
So all of Popeye's chicken places are halal.
Good thing I don't eat that.
Which would mean that it's
Been prayed over by a...
well, it's okay for Allah.
An imam,
Right? It's all right for Muslims to consume. So if we go through not knowing that, I guess, and just eat it, it's still a clean animal, but we didn't know it was sacrificed.
Prayers to Allah don't mean a thing to me.
No, I know. But
Yeah,
I'm just
and
trying, I'm trying to nail all this.
But
stuff.
I did not know that.
That's in the same. I swore I read somewhere that God shells is the same. It's halal. It's
Well, halal
specifically
halal means it's kashrut, so halal just means holy, right?
No, halal specifically, it's
Muslim consumption.
yeah, it's basically prepared effectively the same way as kashrut, but it does have an imam pray over it to
Oh,
be
wow.
officially halal. And there are
I don't like gottschalks anyway.
Yeah.
The Kroger one's the best one.
Yeah, I agree. The Daniel something's.
Godshall's beef bacon is
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the Muslims don't eat pork. So
We'll
that is
counter-pray
nice to
over
know.
it.
That's nice to know.
But it's okay to eat.
But, I was
But it's
gonna say,
still-
back to the
it's-
subject, we're
It's still
it
okay
doesn't
to eat.
matter.
It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But if somebody thinks you're buying it, if
If we're buying it because it's halal, then that's
yeah,
That's a different story, yeah.
that would be a different story.
Because it's clean animal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but,
We're eating it because it's beef.
right.
And then someone comes along and they go, "Hey, did you know that that's been prayed over by an imam?" And you go, "Oh yeah, that's why I eat it." Hello, then you're going to cause them a problem, okay? But now, if not, like we've all been eating it, I didn't know an imam had prayed over it. Doesn't mean anything to me because who's he praying to? Allah? Nothing. It's not a God. There's only one God, Yahuah. So it doesn't mean anything. But this is what Shaul's saying here. Everything's permitted me. Not everything does profit, but all's permitted. Not all build up. But no one seek his own, but each one seek that of the other. If it's gonna, if you're with someone who's a brand new believer, and you're going to Popeyes, you're like, let's go to Popeyes, and they say, did you know that all the food there has been prayed over by an imam? You might want to go, oh, I didn't know that. Let's go somewhere else. So if it's going to affect them, don't do it. If you're by yourself, it's not going to affect anyone because it means nothing, and that's what he says. What does he say back
So
here?
you have to also know, like, what the Corinthians were even going through at the time. You know what I mean? So what were the Corinthians dealing with? They're obviously, but they're dealing with a lot of
Pagan
Church of
influence.
Corinth were dealing with the people that were. They just had a bunch of people come through that were trying to get them more on the rabbinic law things, right? Am I not?
No, I think you're
looking at
correct.
Galatians?
It's one of the two.
Yeah. Well,
I think the Corinthians were dealing with pagan influences.
Well, it was huge pagan. It was Corinth was huge on all the pagan gods.
It's Greek.
Because it was Greek.
Yes, you're right. And Kaylin can probably tell you all the goddesses and gods that were there.
More than you could count.
So yes, very pagan. But he's telling them, look, it doesn't mean anything. And he says over here, let's see.
But see,
Here's what he says here, Jack. He says, what then do I say? That an idol is of any value? Or that which is slaughtered to an idol is of any value? No, it's not. But what the nations slaughtered, they slaughtered to demons and not to Elohim. And I do not wish you to become sharers with demons.
Yeah.
So he's saying it doesn't mean anything unless it means something to you.
Unless they say, hey, this has all been sacrificed to Zeus, I would like be like, hey, I can't do that.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
That's the impression I get of 28.
Yeah.
So it's going to be your conscience.
So that's going to be it.
And if it's going to affect someone else.
This whole little segment right through here is another one of the I can eat anything I want to.
Yeah,
And
because
if you go on,
29 says what you're
stop
saying.
there at 28, and if you notice what's in quotation marks and what isn't, I guess what's in quotation marks is what is they are saying.
they added.
Yeah.
It's been added.
No, not the italics, just, well anyways, whenever we get there.
Okay, so are you
He's
in
saying-
26?
He's saying, and you said 28?
Yeah, whenever you go.
Yeah, so it says this was slaughtered to idols in quotations, and then the earth
Okay.
belongs to Yahuah, and then all that fills it in quotations.
Is that what they say? You know what I mean? Is that what they're saying? Well, you know, God made this, why can't I eat it? You know what I mean? Is that
It's because of the person pointing it out.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. If you're with someone else and they're like, did you know that's been slaughtered to idols? Don't eat it.
Yeah.
Just don't buy it, don't eat it. Because for
Might
them,
affect their walk.
well, obviously for them, this is a big deal. Did you know that's been slaughtered to idols? No, but we're not going to eat that. And so you just go somewhere else.
Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Go to the Colonels.
Well, you know, God created the pig, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? That's
That's what
some
they're-
of the stuff you always hear.
And that's 26.
Right.
The earth belongs to Yah and all that fills it. Yes, and he created the pigs to clean, the shrimp to clean,
That's why
the
he
lobsters
served them
to.
out.
That's right. He listen, our oceans, the corals dying. Why?
Because
They're eating the shrimp.
it's all being, all of the filters in the
filters.
ocean are being removed and eaten. That's
They're
why.
just- listen,
It's not
guys.
climate change, it's because all the filters are being removed.
You know, the longer I'm on this walk, the more astounded I am at how people are driven by their belly. It's shocking to me. It's alarming to me, and it becomes you. I think the longer you're on this walk, the more aware of it you become. You're like, wow, they're willing to do that for that stuff that's not even food. It's very sad.
It doesn't make much sense.
Bacon.
Would you say?
Not giving up my bacon.
Listen, you
True
would be
that.
shocked at how many preachers
Well,
will
I've had
tell
three-
you.
3 or 4 people tell me that, get talking to them, and they can get behind some of the Sabbath stuff, and you point out, you know, why to keep the Sabbath and stuff, and you go into food, you know, that you shouldn't eat.
It's
I'm not
food,
giving
holidays,
them
and
bacon.
names.
They're just not giving them
Food, you're right.
Yeah. When I took-
You are exactly right.
When I took one of my medical trainings before I was Torah observant, last March or April, somewhere in that time frame, I met the group that does the refuge medical training for TJ Morrow, who runs Bear Independent. And I was just sitting there having lunch with them, and they had brought their own food and made their own lunch and everything while they were there. And they started talking to me about eating clean foods and what you should eat and what you shouldn't eat. I didn't have a clue what they were talking about.
Were you eating bacon?
No, I wasn't, but
A ham sandwich.
believe it or not, actually, what I was eating was clean, and maybe that's why they engaged me on it. No, at the time, I was eating unclean. I wasn't eating Torah foods. I wasn't Torah observant. But anyway, they were basically explaining to me bacon specifically, and I thought it was fascinating because I'd never really thought about it. But they were like, think about that particular food. Think about how that particular food is presented to the world. You go into a restaurant, it's on pictures everywhere. You see the commercials on TV, what is glistening when they show the burger? And
The
so
bacon.
what they described to me is they said it's literally become an idol. There's not a restaurant in America that you go in and there's not bacon served. And more critically, it's prominent on the menu. And so I found it fascinating that these guys who were practicing a religion that I didn't even understand at the time were explaining to me how a food was an idol. But it struck me because when they explained it, I looked at it and I'm looking at the pictures and everything, and I thought, thinking about it visually, and I'm like, yeah, they're right. Wow, it's been put up on a pedestal as an idol in our civilization. And if you look at the world and the food and everything else as you go around and you see bacon and pork
I
specifically,
wonder how many
it'll blow your
service
mind how
people
it's an
we would
idol.
I
find.
watched a video of a guy who was actually a physician who is, he come from a Jewish lineage, but more towards everybody believes in Messiah and all that kind of stuff. But he actually said that pork has a micro fat that does not dissolve and your body cannot process.
That is a
And
fact.
it's bad for
Yeah.
sticking in your artery.
It sticks in your arteries. It literally goes straight to your arteries because the body cannot process it because the fat molecules are too small.
Yeah.
So the human body can't process it.
I was just saying, I wonder how many tour observant people we would find if we were to open like a restaurant that was closed on Saturdays. only
Open on
served-
Sunday.
Well, clean.
I wonder how many people would.
You get all the church folks on Sunday. That's good.
Hey,
I don't-
Yeah, you
We-
sure would.
We would bank on Sunday.
Yeah. What do you mean y'all don't have no bacon? No bacon.
You know what's funny? If you opened on Sunday and you didn't advertise it was kashrut, and you didn't advertise that there was no shrimp or big, people would come in. So I had family down from Boston a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Never once did they say, "Well, where's the bacon?" or "Where's this?" or "Where's that?" They ate clean for 4 days, and I was like,
Out
you
of
know,
sight, out of mind.
out of sight, out of mind. Well, and you don't remind them. Don't go, "Did you know that you're not eating bacon?"
I'd like to see how a restaurant in East Texas, Central East, I guess we are, could make it if somebody walked in and said, "You mean you don't have fried shrimp, you don't have sausage gravy, you don't have bacon, you don't have fried catfish? What kind of restaurant are you?" We serve food here.
Yeah, I'm sorry, sir. We only serve food.
Yeah, here in Baptist country, there's some things you can't do without and make a restaurant survive.
Well,
We
some
get
of
a lot
the
of preachers in there.
But
Yeah.
don't put that wine in there.
Yeah, yeah.
some of the most angry people I've seen over food have been preachers, and that shocks me.
Yeah.
It's a shocking thing to see a preacher get livid when you speak. And I'm not talking about attacking what they're eating, but when you even speak, is that kosher? Is that clean? Is that even food? If you ask that question, they're going to go ballistic on you.
Yeah, they do, unfortunately.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, you know, y'all knew. And again, I've said this 1,000 times. It to me, it is a lesson in both physical, mental, and spiritual discipline that all the unclean foods are delicious. I'm sorry, it is. If those that don't like seafood wouldn't have the same opinion, but if you like seafood, crab, shrimp, lobster, all of those things they're delicacies for a reason. They're very tasty. Catfish, most people that like fried fish love catfish. Those foods are all delicious and they're hard to give up, and I think that there's a lesson in that.
I'm sorry. You gave me the shivers. I was like, ugh.
I mean, I don't eat it anymore, but
Yeah.
those used to be my favorite foods. I loved seafood before I became Torah observant. I don't miss it now at all, and that's an honest statement. Is I thought when we did this, man, there are so many things I'm going to regret not being able to do. I don't even miss it.
You don't even think about
I
it.
walk into a restaurant now, I smell it. It doesn't appeal to me because it's not food.
Get salmon, get you some red
Redfish.
snapper, there's plenty.
Yeah, there's alternatives for sure. Yeah, those just happen to be my favorite.
Well, I used to live in Kemah.
Uh-huh.
I lived in Kemah. My house out over the water. I could get my crabs
Yeah,
out of the
right
bay.
water.
There was April Sound Reef was right in front of my house.
Yeah.
Everything you wanted was right there, and none of it was food.
Yeah, but you make the
So-
point that so many people, they get locked into that idea of, don't take away my food, or the belly is so difficult for them to overcome. I think that's intentional. I think Yahuah set it up that way.
Well, and y'all knew it because do you know the very center word in the Torah, the word that is in the right smack dab in the middle, is the word belly.
Mm-hmm.
The belly,
Yeah.
the stomach is right there in the middle. If you can't give up food to draw near to Yah, throw the rest of it out because you're not going to be able to do the rest of it, more than likely.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I gave up was food.
Yeah. Well, first thing
and
for us was
Shabbat.
doing the Sabbath. And then
Yeah.
the food came very quickly, but yeah.
They were both linked together for me because I was like, wow. Speaking of food, I heard that. Go ahead, keep going.
All right. Was I in 20?
No, it's not. Hold
But
up.
it should be.
Can you just give me like a nod when I need to go put something in the
I will.
We will.
I'll do this.
She will, because I never
I'll
know.
let you know.
First
He
Corinthians.
never knows.
1 Corinthians 10:29. Now I say conscience, not your own, but that of the other. For why is my freedom judged by another's conscience? But if I partake with thanks, why am I evil spoken of for what I give thanks? Why am I evil spoken of for what? I believe that's a typo. But if I partake with thanks, why am I evil spoken of for what I give thanks? There's something wrong with that sentence. Therefore,
No, that's in the Sefer too.
Yeah, I think it's the way you're reading it.
but if I partake with
I
thanks,
think there's something wrong with you.
yeah, it's in the form of a question, but
Something wrong
it's
with
very
you.
strange.
Yeah, it is very strangely worded.
Therefore, whether you eat or drink, or whatever you do, do all to the esteem of Elohim. Cause no stumbling, either to the Yahudim, or to the Greeks, or to the assembly of Elohim. As I also please all men in all matters, not seeking my own advantage, but that of the many, that they might be saved.
This is all about the other person, guys.
Yeah.
Every bit what Shaul is talking about here, it's about making sure you don't make your neighbor or your friend or your brother stumble.
Yeah.
And it's all about being set apart, being obedient to his commands. Okay, let's go back over
If you
to
just read around all the food stuff there, basically it's saying it's all about idols, eating stuff to idols.
that's it. That is it.
You know, that's one of the arguments that get made about why we should eat anything we want.
Yeah. Well, God made it. It's food. Well, let's see. I used to eat snails. I was thinking, well, he made snails. Well, I used to eat those. So,
You
But-
made the waste product that comes out.
yeah. I mean, that's true. Ugh. The things that we've put in our mouth and eaten, I'm just like, it wasn't food. So he makes the puffish. Is it the puffish that's poisonous?
Yeah, puffer fish.
Puffer fish. He makes all that, but we aren't supposed to eat it. And surely you've got good enough sense not to eat it. So, yeah. Okay, we're going back to Leviticus 21, and we are going.
21 what?
Behave. 21. We're going to skin through this. 21 and 22. When I say skin, yes, sir.
Pufferfish do not have scales,
There you go.
Interesting.
but people still eat the liver of it or something like that.
Well, they have to do something to the puffer fish to
They
make
have
it.
to remove that.
Is it the liver?
They have to remove it's got a poison sac and something else. Yeah.
Well, and they eat those dragons too. Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
So the rules for the priest is very, very specific. They can't marry someone who's been divorced. They can't marry someone who's a widow. They have to marry only a maiden. They can't do anything that's pagan. Do not make bald spots on your head. Don't shave the sides of your beards, and don't make cuttings in your flesh. Don't cut your flesh. These are all pagan acts, guys. Be set apart. Go down to 9.
Okay.
And would you go to 32, Genesis 32? I think it's 32. I've scribbled in here so much that I'm not sure. Is 38
How's that? Looks
or
like
37?
38.
It's either 38, I think it's 38.
38:12.
Sure. Okay, I'm going to read this. What is it about? The genealogy?
Yeah, I don't think
Yes.
that is it.
But hold on just a second.
Okay.
I'm going to read verse 9 to you out of 21. And when the daughter of any priest profanes herself, listen, I want you to remember this while we're going through everything on Torah. It's all about honor and shame. Honor and shame. You're honoring Yah when you're obedient to his commands. You shame him when you're not. When a daughter profanes herself by whoring, she profanes her father. Listen, our Abba is no different. He's no different. Okay, she is burned with fire, and the high priest among his brothers, on whose head the anointing oil was poured, and who is ordained to wear the garments, does not unbind his head nor tear his garments. We've got a problem there because Caiaphas ripped his garment, didn't he? That made him not a high priest till after dark that day. Okay, but we want to look at Tamar. The story of Tamar. Whose children did Tamar have?
Yehuda.
Yehuda. Why?
Because he wasn't a good man
Well,
that day.
She tricked her.
she tricked him, but
he still-
he had broken his promise to her. He gave her his first son. Son didn't like her. He spilled his seed. He died. He gave her his second son. He too did not want to have children with her. Spilled his seed. He died. His third son was too small, and he said, "Look, Tamar, when you grow up old enough, then I will give you my third son." Well, Tamar went. She heard that he was coming to town. She went, sat beside the road, saw that he came to town. His son was grown, and what did she do? She dressed up as a prostitute, like a temple prostitute, and he came into her. When he came into her, he didn't have any. He said, "I have nothing to pay you with." She said, "Give me your signet ring. Give me your staff." And there was one other thing, his cloak, maybe.
Yeah, his cloak.
Just give me the things that identify you, and then you can send a lamb or a cow
As a kid,
and
a goat.
trade out. Well, she became pregnant. Okay. 32.
Genesis
38.
38:12. And after a long time, the daughter of Shua, Yehuda's wife, died. I knew where we were going. And Yehuda was comforted and went up to his sheep shearers at Timnah, he and his friend Hira the Adulamite. And it was reported to Tamar, saying, "See, your father-in-law is going up to Timnah to shear his sheep." And she took off her widow's garments and covered herself with a veil and wrapped herself and sat at the entrance to Enaim, which was on the way to Timnah. For she saw that Shelah was grown, and she was not given to him as a wife. And Yehuda saw her and reckoned her for a whore, for she had covered her face. And he turned... never mind. And he turned aside to her by the way and said, "Please let me come into you," for he did not know that she was his daughter-in-law. And she said, "What do you give me to come into me?" And he said, "Let me send you a young goat from the flock." And she said, "Do you give me a pledge until you send it?" So he said, "What pledge should I give you?" And she said, "Your seal and your cord and your staff that is in your hand." And he gave them to her and went into her, and she conceived by him. She arose and went away, and removed her veil and put on the garments of her widowhood. And Yehuda sent the young goat by the hand of his friend the Adulamite to receive his pledge from the woman's hand, but he did not find her. And he asked the men of that place, saying, "Where is the cult prostitute who was beside the way to Enaim?" And they said, "There was no cult prostitute in this place." And he returned to Yehuda and said, "I have not found her." And the men of the place also said, "There was no cult prostitute in this place." And Yehuda said, "Let her take them for herself, lest we become despised, for I sent this young goat, and you have not found her." And it came to be about 3 new moons after, that Yehuda was informed, saying, "Tamar, your daughter-in-law, has whored, and see, she has conceived by whoring." And Yehuda said, "Bring her out and let her be burned."
What was the commandment we just read?
That the priest-
If a priest's daughter profanes him by whoring herself, she is to be what? Burned. Okay, listen to this. In Jubilees 41, it says, "And in the 45th Jubilee, in the second week and in the second year, Yehuda took for his firstborn heir a woman from the daughters of Aram named Tamar." Who is Aram? He was Shem's son. Shem was in the lineage of who? Enoch. So Tamar was the great-great-great-granddaughter of Enoch. She was also the granddaughter of Shem, who was what? The Melchizedek.
Yep.
So was Aram. So what did she do? She did something that was not to be done in Yasharal. She profaned her father. But what's the rest of that story?
And it came to be, when she was brought out, she sent to her father-in-law, saying, "By the man to whom these belong, I am pregnant." And she said, "Please examine whose these are, the seal and the cord and the staff." And Yehuda examined and said, "She has been more righteous than I, because I did not give her to Shelah my son." And he never knew her again.
But she was blessed with Peretz and
Zarak.
Zarok. So Peretz is in the lineage of our Savior. So she was more righteous. But I want you to see all these stories, everything that's done throughout Scripture, it's based from the Torah. And if you don't know the Torah, you don't understand why would they bring her out and want to burn her. And that was Yehuda, the one who impregnated her, that wanted her burned. Why? Because she was the daughter of a priest. So understanding Torah completely changes everything. Now listen to this. Any man who has a defect is not to draw near. A blind man, a lame man, a disfigured or deformed, a man who has a broken foot, a broken hand, a hunchback, or a dwarf, or a man who has a defect in his eye, or eczema, or scab, or is a eunuch. No man among the offspring of Aaron the priest who has a defect is to come near to bring the offerings made by fire. And here it is, Sherry, made by fire to Yahweh. He has a defect. He is not to come near to bring the bread of his Elohim. So you couldn't have a flat nose. What?
I just didn't realization.
What? The dwarf thing?
This reads exactly like when you. So if you want to become a Freemason, one of the twisted things that's in Freemasonry is they teach that you're a high priest of the building of the Solomon's Temple. So a Master Mason becomes a high priest of the temple, if you will. This is exactly what prohibits you from becoming a Mason.
Wow.
Fascinating.
From becoming a Mason? So you can't even be accepted in.
Not if you have these defects.
Well, that is interesting. So they've kind of followed the biblical instructions, right?
Yeah, they have some of the Bible in there.
Oh, it's all Bible based. Yeah. All of Freemasonry is some twisting of Scripture in some way or another.
Okay, we're in Leviticus. That came from Leviticus 21:16. I'm now in 22:9. And they shall guard my charge, lest they bear sin for it and die thereby when they profane it. I, Yahweh, set them apart, and no stranger eats the set apart offering. A sojourner with the priest or a hired servant does not eat of the set apart offering. But when the priest buys a being with his silver, he eats of it. And the one who is born in his house, he eats of it. Unless his daughter has married someone outside the Levite tribe, she doesn't eat of it anymore. But if he dies, she comes back home, she can eat of it if she has no children. So these are all just really good commandments for the priest and for the house. Now look at this. I found this interesting. We're going to start in 23 of 22. As for a bull or a lamb that has any limb deformed or dwarfed, you do prepare it as a voluntary offering. So if you've got a deformed animal, you can offer it, but this is a voluntary offering. So you're going to eat the voluntary offering. Does that make sense? It's not something you're giving to Yah to come closer to him. It's not a sin offering. So, but if it's for a vow, it is not accepted. So any free will offerings can be deformed. Down in 25. And from a son of a stranger's hand, you do not bring any of these as bread of your Elohim, for their corruption is in them, and defects are in them, and they are not acceptable for you. So if you're bringing something from a stranger, it can't be offered up to Yah. Their sin are in these animals. Isn't that interesting? That, I'm sure there are a lot of things that we're going to understand when we get into the kingdom, but if an animal is around a sinful man and he beats him or kicks him, this animal's probably going to have some tendencies to maybe butt you or bite you or kick you. That's all I can figure.
Animals take on their owner's behavior.
Yeah, like that chicken that hit me in the eye this morning. This is just Yah's mercy. And Yahweh spoke I'm in 26, and Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, when a bull or a sheep or a goat is born, it shall be 7 days with its mother, and from the 8th day and thereafter it is acceptable as an offering made by fire to Yahweh. But do not slay a cow or a sheep and its young on the same day. That's just mercy. Don't take the mother and the baby the same day. And he says the same thing even about a baby bird. In 31, again he says, and you shall guard my commands, you shall do them, for I am Yahuah. Do not profane my set apart name, and I shall be set apart among the children of Yasharal. I am Yahuah who sets you apart, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim to be your Elohim. I am Yahuah. Who is Yahusha? He came in the name of who?
Yahuah.
Of the Father, Yahuah. So who led them through the wilderness?
Yahusha.
It was Yahusha. So what we know is that Yahusha could not be in the camp even if the camp was dirty, if there was filth, if there was sin within the camp. Yahusha couldn't stay there. Okay, 23. We're going to spend just a little bit of time on 23, then we're going to go eat because this is all about feasting.
Yahusha could be or Yahuah could be there.
Yahusha as Yahuah could not be in the
Okay.
camp. Yahuah couldn't be around sin anyway.
Yeah.
Once Adam and Eve sinned, he was like, son, they're all
So,
yours.
To
You, he's like, right hand of salvation, they're in your hands now, because now you take care of them. We don't see until the very end of Revelation that Yahuah comes back and dwells with us. And that's at the end. Okay, 23:1. Are y'all ready?
Yes, right.
Okay. Guys, his feasts are so incredible. I'm just going to say that starting off because he has so perfectly timed them. And he did it for a reason. And it's just, it's almost like you've got two segments of a year. Like 6 months,
First
then
half,
6
second half.
months. Because they are exact. They're exactly the same. It's just amazing. Okay, and Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the children of Yasharal and say to them, the appointed times of Yahuah, which you are to proclaim as set-apart gatherings. And he says, they're my appointed times, are these. How many times have you heard people say, what, you're doing Passover? Isn't that Jewish?
Isn't that Easter?
Yeah, is that Easter? Or isn't that Jewish? That's usually what I hear.
I always hear that.
Only the Jews are supposed to do that. Well, these, first of all, aren't the Jews. They're Yah's appointed times. 6 days work is done, but the seventh day is a Sabbath of rest. A set-apart gathering. You do no work. It is a Sabbath to Yahuah in all of your dwellings. These are the appointed times of Yahuah, set-apart gatherings which you are to proclaim at their appointed times. In the first new moon, on the 14th of the new moon, between the evenings is a Pesach. Would you go to Exodus 12:1?
So then that's another thing saying we should do his feast days.
Yes.
I read it.
Throughout your generations.
Well, and it says everlasting, but that's another spot.
The main place for the feasts are in Leviticus 23.
Yeah.
I'm just making sure that I read, again, we're supposed to be doing his feast.
There is no place that you're not supposed to do the feast. Now, when we get over here
It says in the
to,
wilderness and in the land.
yep,
To make sure I understand it perfectly.
yes, and Sukkot. Now,
Oh,
Sukkot,
that's so fun.
he says native-born Israelites are to dwell in sukkahs, but so that's the only place that it's not telling you you have to dwell in a tent. But you can dwell in a tent. He's just not saying you have to. He's saying, but if you're native-born Israelites, you dwell in tents. You dwell in sukkahs. So what?
Exodus 12, what?
12:1.
12:1.
And I think you will go a little bit further than that.
And
Yeah.
Yahweh spoke to Moshe and to Aharon in the land of Mitzrayim, saying, this new moon is the beginning of new moons for you. It is the first new moon of the year for you. Speak to all the congregation of Yasharel, saying, on the 10th day of this new moon, each one of them is to take for himself a lamb, according to the house of his father, a lamb for a household.
Hold right there. So in Exodus, he sets up the head of the year. This is the first day of the new year. And guys, y'all saw me stressing over when is the new year starting. Because why? It's the head of the year. It predicts and tells us when Pesach is going to be.
When all the feasts.
Everything comes after it. And exactly 6 months later, You have the announcing of the king, and we're fixing to see that on Yom Teruah. It's exactly 6 months from the head of the year. What do the Jews call it? Oh, it's Rosh Hashanah. Happy New Year. Hello. Abba just told us this is the new year. Now, it may be an agricultural new year for them, but Rosh Hashanah is not that feast. It is Yom Teruah, exactly 6 months later. But I want, on the 10th day of this new moon, that's when you select the lamb. Guys, this is so beautiful. Okay, over here in 23 of Leviticus, he goes straight into talking about, let's see here. These are the appointed times in the first new month, which is Abib. On the 14th day of the new moon, between the evenings, is the Pesach to Yahuah. So this is the Passover to Yahuah. Would you go to Matthew 27, 45? Guys, on the 10th day of Abib, the lamb is chosen. When did Yahushua come into Jerusalem?
Right before he was going to be crucified.
Exactly 5 days prior. This is just, to me, this is just so amazing.
I'm not sure if that's far back enough. That's from the 6th hour there was darkness. 27:45.
27. I think it's 25. So see, I had all this down for us, and I just got so excited. It's 25. Have I got a page missing? Are my pages falling out now?
You were reading 23. Maybe it was 22, 25? Was where your note was?
I want us to see when Yahushua came into.
Yeah, this isn't a thing for sure. This is when he's being crucified. So let me try 25.
Oh, I've written so much in here.
Possibly it's 26, 25.
Nope.
No.
Sorry, guys. Nope. Hoshiana.
Yeah, I mean, this is all end times.
Yep.
I'm not sure.
I spent a long time pulling all this up this morning.
What is it? What we after?
When Yahushua comes into Jerusalem, and they welcome him in, they're laying down the palms. They call it Palm Sunday. Would you look at Hoshiana? It's when? I bet you're right.
That would make sense in progression.
That would be perfectly in line. That's it. You're awesome. Thank you, Grant. You saved me today. Okay.
21.
21:1.
Yep. And when they came near to Jerusalem and came to Bethphage at the Mount of Olives, then Yahushua sent 2 taught ones, saying to them, Go into the village opposite you, and straightway you shall find a donkey tied and a colt with her. Loosen them and bring them to me. And if anyone says whatever to you, you shall say, The master needs them, and immediately he shall send them. And all this took place that it might be filled what was spoken of by the prophet, saying, Say to the daughter of Zion, See, your sovereign is coming to you, meek, and sitting on a donkey, even a colt, the foal of a donkey. And the taught ones went, and having done as Yahushua ordered them, they brought the donkey and the colt, and laid their garments on them, and he sat on them. And most of the crowd spread their garments on the way, while others cut down branches from the trees and spread them on the way. And the crowds who went before and those who followed cried out, saying, Hosanna to the Son of David. Blessed is he who is coming in the name of Yahuah. Hosanna. It says Hosanna.
Hoshiana.
Hosanna in the highest. And as he entered into Jerusalem, all the city was stirred, saying, Who is this?
Keep going.
And the crowd said, This is Yahushua, the prophet from Nazareth of Galilee. And Yahushua went into the set-apart place of Elohim, and drove out all those buying and selling in the set-apart place, and overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who sold doves. And he said to them, It has been written, My house shall be called a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of robbers. And blind and lame ones came to him in the set-apart place, and he healed them. But when the chief priests and scribes saw the wonders which he did, and the children crying out in the set-apart place and saying, Hosanna to the Son of David, they were greatly displeased, and said to him, Do you hear what these say? And Yahushua said to them, Yes, have you never read, Out of the mouths of babes and nurslings you have perfected praise? And having left them, he went out to the city of Beth and Yah, and spent the night there. And returning to the city early in the morning, he became hungry. And seeing a single fig tree by the way, he came to it, and found not on it but leaves, and said to it, Let no fruit grow on you ever again. And immediately the fig tree withered. And the taught ones, seeing it, marveled, saying, How did the fig tree wither so soon? And Yahushua, answering, said to them, Truly I say to you, if you have belief and do not doubt, you shall not only do what was done to the fig tree, but even if you say to this mountain, Be removed and be thrown into the sea, it shall be done. And whatever you ask in prayer, believing, you shall receive. And when he had come into the set-apart place, the chief priests and the elders of the people came to him as he was teaching, and said, By what authority are you doing these? And who gave you this authority? And Yahushua answering said to them, I shall ask you one question too, which if you answer me, I also shall say to you by what authority I do these. The immersion of Yohanan, where did it come from? From heaven or from men? So they reasoned among themselves, saying, If we say from heaven, he shall say to us, Then why did you not believe him? But if we say from men, we fear the crowd, for all hold Yohanan as a prophet. And they answered Yahushua and said, We do not know. And he said to them, Neither do I say to you by what authority I do these. How far do you want me to go?
I think you've already gone, but I have not given y'all the right verses. It's either in Mark or Luke or John, but it specifically says 5 days. I know, and now this is what's so
that's
cool to me. Is it Luke?
I think
It's so important to understand that everything that Yah does is done with purpose, because 5 days prior to the first day of unleavened bread is when Yahushua came in. They honored him. They selected the lamb that day. Lots of these people didn't even know who they were. They cut branches and they honored him. They made a pathway of their cloaks and of the palm branches. I had it all written down. It's not in Acts. It's in one of the Gospels.
Yeah, it's not Luke because it doesn't list days.
It specifically had 5 days. Y'all gotta find it. Well, I'm gonna find it and then post it on this site, because if we keep looking, the kids are gonna starve to death. Okay, but the point here is that 10 days, on the 10th day of that month, from the day that they had the first Pesach, almost 1,500 years later, on the 10th day of that first month, Yahushua was selected as that perfect lamb. And here we go into, I'm going to start at 5. In the first new moon, on the 14th day of the new moon, between the evenings, is the Pesach to Yahuah. And this is when Yahushua was literally sacrificed, was at the 9th hour. He gave up his spirit between the evenings. So that would have been about 3 o'clock. On the 15th day of this new moon is the festival of Mazot. To Yahuah, 7 days you eat unleavened bread. On the first day you have a set apart gathering, and you do no servile work. So this is when I was talking to Valerie this morning. This Pesach occurred, not this one, but when Yahushua was sacrificed. It occurred on Friday. Friday evening at 3 o'clock, he was crucified. Before sunset, he was put into the ground. Which, John, would you read it for us, please? Just to kind of...
Do you want to finish your thought?
Yeah. So, before the sun went down, he was put in the grave. Why? This is the preparation day. You have to remember this. Yahushua said, I desire to eat this meal with you. Was he talking about Passover? Because this is what everyone says. They say he wanted to eat Passover with his apostles. He was a Passover lamb. How could he have Passover meal before Passover? Do y'all understand what's taking place here? This was the preparation day, and it defines this over in 27 when it's talking about the day that he gave up his spirit. It was preparation day. He died at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Before the sunset, when it was a holy day, he was in the grave. So he was in the grave. So you've got Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night. You've got Thursday, Friday, and Shabbat. It says he rose late in the day on Shabbat, almost before sunset. So he was in the ground. He was in the grave for 3 days, 3 nights, and he arose on Shabbat, not on Sunday. It was before. Matthew is very specific, and this is the first time. That's why I got so excited this morning. I was like, oh my goodness. I mean, it spells it out right here, because I've always used John, but it says before it became the first day of the week, which is Sunday, not the seventh day. Before it became the first day, before the sun had set, he was already arisen. So you've got your 3 days, your 3 nights, and he arose on Shabbat, not on Sunday. And that's why people say, well, we changed the day of Shabbat to Sunday because that's the day he rose. No, he didn't. He didn't. So that is the proof of it, and that's in 27. So those of you who want to go through it and read it, we need to do a study on that one day, just on that. And thank you so much for finding it.
Yep. So this is in John.
Yeah.
12:1. Accordingly, Yahusha, 6 days before the Pesach, came to Bet Inyah, where Eleazar was, who had died, whom he raised from the dead. And it talks about all the things that they did. And then it says, after he's gotten the... Let's see here. I think it's right here. It specifically says the next day he went.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm looking for. I just had it.
Yeah,
Here it is. It's right here. It's 12. Yeah. So they get the cult. Then a great crowd of the Yahudim learned that he was there, and they came not on account of Yahusha only, but also to see Eleazar, the one whom he had raised from the dead. And the chief priest resolved to kill Eleazar as well, because on account of him, many of the Yahudim went away and believed in Yahusha. On the next day, a great crowd who had come to the festival, when they heard that Yahusha was coming to Jerusalem, took the branches of palm trees and went out to meet him, and were crying out, Hoshiana, blessed is he who is coming in the name of Yahuah, the sovereign of Israel. And Yahusha, having found a young donkey, sat on it, as it has been written, do not fear, daughter of Zion. See, your sovereign is coming, sitting on the colt of a donkey. So that was day 5.
That's day 5. So guys, everything that's in Scripture, if you don't know the front, you don't understand why everything is being done in the back. It's just so important because they mesh, literally they mesh together. So we've got day 10, the Lamb is selected. Day 10, our Messiah, our Savior, our Redeemer, came into Jerusalem, and they said, Hoshiana, blessed be he who comes in the name of Yahuah. Guess what? The Yahudim, the tribe of Yehuda, is going to have to say those exact same words again before our Messiah sets his foot back down on Mount Zion and the Mount of Olives. Before he does that, they're going to have to repeat these same words. He says that, I won't come back here until you say, blessed be he who comes in the name of Yahuah. So what they said to him on that day, they will have to repeat it. Okay.
There's a little verse in Psalms, a reference verse. Blessed Blessed be he that comes in the name of Yahuah. We have blessed you out of the house of Yahuah.
What verse is that?
Psalm 118, 26.
Guess what? Those are the Psalms that were read out loud on preparation day while Yahushua was hanging on the cross. Across the Kidron Valley, if you were in the temple doors were opened to the east, which is where the Mount of Olives is, which is where Yahushua was crucified, and he could see and hear what was going on in the temple. Our Father had the day of his son's death so perfectly timed that he could hear the psalms they were singing. He could hear the words that were being spoken. And when the Lamb was crucified, it was exactly at 3 in the afternoon when our Savior gave up his life. Perfect timing on everything, down to the time that he went into the grave. And 3 days later when he arose, what did he become? 1 Corinthians 15:52. I mean, we're going to go ahead and hit this because we were talking about first fruits, right? This last week.
Oh, yeah.
He is the first fruits from the dead. He is the first one to come back to life from the dead.
See, I speak a secret to you. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed.
That's Yom Teruah.
Yeah. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet. For the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. For this corruptible has to put on incorruption, and this mortal to put on immortality.
Yeah, that is not
Different one.
the first fruits. But he is the first fruits from the dead. I'm going to have to get more sleep.
Go to first.
That was for-
15. Go to First Corinthians 15:20.
Read it. So Yom Teruah
No, that's what he just read.
is...
Yeah.
Okay,
That's the
so...
verse you just read.
Yeah, and we're fixing to hit, but go ahead and read 20.
Yeah.
But now Messiah has been raised from the dead and has become the first fruit of those having fallen asleep.
Okay, that's it. So he is the first fruit of those who have fallen asleep. Man, we've got such a good team. Thank you.
What did you read, Ashton?
It was 1552,
Yeah, 1552 is the one I
or
read.
51 and 52.
What?
Yeah, it's of 1 Corinthians. So these are support verses for actually Yom Teruah. And we're, the feast or the festivals, because they have got such deep meaning. Okay, I'm going to head back into here. Does everyone understand how everything fit perfectly with his death on the cross? With everything they're telling them to do here. Okay. On the first day you have a set apart gathering. This would be on the first day of unleavened bread. You do no servile work, and you shall bring an offering made by fire to Yahuah for 7 days. On the 7th day is a set apart gathering, and you do no servile work. We just finished unleavened bread. For 7 days we ate nothing but unleavened. We ate everything else, but we didn't eat leavening. So we ate only unleavened bread. We didn't eat leavened bread, right? Okay. And Yahuah spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Yasharel, and you shall say to them, When you come into the land which I give you, and shall reap its harvest, then you shall bring the sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest to the priest. Now, this is going to be Shabbat. Well, actually, this is going to be, their first harvest is going to be barley in Abib, right? So their wave offering would be on the Shabbat following Pesach. That would be the offering of the barley harvest. And he shall wave the sheaf before Yahuah for your acceptance on the morrow. After the Sabbath, the priest waves it. And on that day you shall wave the sheaf. You shall prepare a male lamb, a year old, a perfect one, for an ascending offering to Yahuah, and its grain offering 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour with oil, an offering made by fire to Yahuah, a sweet fragrance, and its drink offering 1/4 of a hin of wine. And you do not eat bread or roasted grain or fresh grain until the same day that you have brought an offering to Yahuah. It is a law forever throughout your generations and all your dwellings. And from the morrow, and here we go, the morrow after the Sabbath, after Pesach, okay? Do y'all see where we started the count? So the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day you brought the sheaf of the wave offering, you shall start counting for yourselves 7 completed Sabbaths. Now, 7 is supposed to be the length of time it took them to come from Ramses to Mount Sinai. And this is a remembrance of those 7 weeks that it took them to come that distance.
So there's, isn't there, thought out there that the Sadducees and the Pharisees both have different methods of counting? The Sadducees do it on the Sabbath you're talking about, but there's another one that they do it off a weekly Sabbath? That after that Saturday, the Sunday starts the counting?
That's what Yah tells us to do.
Oh, okay.
He says the morrow, the day after the Sabbath, from the day you brought the sheaf offering. So the Sabbath before, when you brought the sheaf offering, then the next Shabbat, the day after, is the first day of the counting up. So he is very specific about how he does this. Now, sometimes you can read this to mean after unleavened bread, but most people start the count during the unleavened bread. So it's the first Shabbat after Pesach, first Shabbat, and then it starts the next day on Sunday. Which means that when you get...
It always starts on a Sunday, doesn't it?
It always starts on a Sunday, and you will always celebrate it on a Sunday because 49 days end up on a Shabbat, and the next day is the 50th day, which represents Jubilee.
And something interesting on this year, it falls on 6:16, Jeremiah 6:16, return of the old past.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Call of return to the ancient past?
Yep.
That's pretty cool. I like that. You so smart.
I just put numbers together and
Okay, so here he's defining when Shavuot is going to be. So after the Sabbath, the day that you did the wave offering of the barley, and this is why it's important to have the barley ripe, okay? You've got to have the barley ripe for the wave offering during Pesach. You shall count for yourself 7 completed Sabbaths until the morrow after the 7th Sabbath. You count 50 days, and then you shall bring a new grain offering to Yahuah, wheat offering. So the first wave offering is going to be barley. 50 days later, you've got your wheat offering. Bring from your dwelling for a wave offering 2 loaves of bread, 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour. They are baked with leaven, first fruits to Yahuah. Now these are not a burnt offering. These are going on the table of showbread, right? It's not going to be burnt. Leavening and honey are never included in burnt offerings, ever. He's very specific. He says, do not put leavening or honey in any of the burnt offerings. Besides the bread, you shall bring 7 lambs a year old, perfect lambs, and one young bull and 2 rams. They are ascending offerings to Yahuah with their grain offering and their drink offering and an offering made by fire. They are a sweet fragrance to Yah. And Grant, what happens to the ascending offerings?
It's completely burnt up.
Completely. So there's nothing left and nothing eaten. You shall offer 1 male goat as a sin offering and 2 male lambs a year old as a slaughter of peace offerings. Now, the peace offerings will be what? They'll be shared. They will be eaten by both the offerers and the priest. Sin offering is eaten by who? Just the priest. Okay. And the priest shall wave them besides the bread and the first fruits. So here you've got first fruits of barley. You've got Yahushua as a first fruit. You've got the wheat first fruits. You've also got in Sukkot first fruits of the crops. So there are 4 first fruits throughout the year, and this is how some people get confused because there's first fruits for each season.
So I thought, like, as far as like the 7 feasts, right? The first one, Pesach, second one,
Unleavened bread.
unleavened bread, third one is first fruits, but they're all within the same weekend.
Shavuot. Shavuot is
That's
the is it.
Pentecost, though, right?
It's not Pentecost unless you're Greek. If you're Greek, you can call it
Well, you know
Pentecost.
what I'm saying.
But
That's
it's
the one that's 50
well,
days away.
but Shavuot is the only commanded feast.
So I thought there was 3 Shavuot and 3 after Atonement,
No,
Sukkot, and
the first fruits is not a commanded feast. Do y'all see it?
No, there's
It's not. There's not a
so there's
specific.
only 6 feasts we keep every year. Not
There are
7?
7. So Sukkot is a 7-day feast, and then the 8th day is Shemini
I'm
Azaret.
saying there's 7 feasts that we keep throughout the year.
There are.
Or is it only 6?
There's Pesach, unleavened bread, Shavuot, Yom Teruah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Shemini Azeret. Shemini Azeret is the end of Sukkot.
Oh, that second Sabbath.
That's the second Sabbath, but it's the 8th day celebration. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, he does this year. Last year was something completely different, but that's fine. I thought first fruits was whenever he was our first fruits, the first 3 feasts.
Okay, did
His
y'all
first
say?
coming, his
Okay.
last 3 feasts are his second coming.
Okay, but what we're doing is we're going through Leviticus and we're going through what he's telling us to do. And he didn't say to do anything except a wave offering of the barley harvest for first fruits. And he doesn't change it anywhere. Okay, and it's not holy day. It's not a set apart day. So you can go by. That's why I say there's 4 first fruits.
Right.
There's actually the day that Yahushua arose, which was on a Sabbath, but it's not going to be on the Sabbath every year. Okay, because this year preparation day was on a Tuesday, so 3 days later was Friday, which was the day he rose. So you're going to have first fruits on different days. So your barley harvest first fruit offering would have been on Saturday. Okay, then you've got your first fruit of wheat, which is what we are counting down to 50 days. And then for Sukkot, you have your first fruit offering for your crops. So that's why that's 3, but we should be honoring, I do believe we should be honoring Yahushua's risen day, but that's 3 days after the preparation day. So, but there's no place that says to do anything for that day. Yes, that's why it gets confusing, because there are 3 different first fruits, but not a commanded, a specific for Yahushua's risen day. And the problem is the calendar. So it's not on the same day every year. So everybody it gets very confusing, and I can confuse myself if you make me talk long enough. I'm going to be like, wait a minute. Okay, so now we're counting up to Shavuot. Bring from your dwellings the wave offerings. Oh, I've already gone through all that. Jessica, you've been keeping up with everything. Where am I?
I think you're in 21.
Thank you. And on this same day, you shall proclaim a set-apart gathering for yourselves. You do no servile work on it, a law forever in your dwellings throughout your generations. Does it say you have to be in the land? No. Doesn't matter where you are. This is a forever, continual celebration to Yah. And when you reap the harvest of your land, do not completely reap the corners of your field. When you reap, and do not gather any gleanings from your harvest. So when you reap it, you're going to have some stuff that falls out right here and there, and you're going to have the corners that you didn't get up in. Don't go back and get it. Who's it for? Who was one of the poor that was in Yahushua's lineage? Ruth. She was gleaning. She was picking up the gleanings, the extras that were left behind. Leave them for the poor and for this stranger. I am Yahuah your Elohim. And Yahuah spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the children of Yasharel, saying, in the 7th new moon. This is exactly 6 months after the head of the year, the first new year. In the 7th new moon, on the first day of the new moon, you have a rest, a remembrance of Teruah. Teruah means a making of noises, a shouting, a blowing of the shofar. It is a set-apart gathering. This is the day, and it's interesting that most of the countries that have kings, the kings were coronated. They went by the Bible. England went by the Bible. Great Britain went by the Bible. The kings were coronated on Yom Teruah. It's the ushering in, the announcing of the king. So the king could become king, and he might be reigning for a while, and then they have the coronation. But they were set right here around the same time, like the first day of the 7th month. So on this day, and this is where we were going with the verse that you read a while ago, 1 Corinthians. I also have Joel 2, 1 through 2. Seth, would you bring that up? In 1 Thessalonians 4, 15 through 16. And if you're still in 1 Corinthians 15, 52, Jack, would you read that? 15:52 is the one that Jack read earlier. Let me tell you what happens on Yom Teruah. The shofar, and this is not a commanded, but there is a blowing of the shofar, 100 blasts. There are 9 sets of 11 blasts, or 11 sets of 9 blasts. I always get, you know me, I twist things about. But there's 99 blows. The very last is called the last trump. Okay? Jack, read yours.
In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, the last trumpet, for the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed.
At the last blast of the trump. This is talking about Yom Teruah.
Interesting.
Ashton.
1 Thessalonians 4:15. For this we say to you by the word of the Master, that we, the living, who are left over at the coming of the Master, shall in no way go before those who are asleep. Because the Master himself shall come down from heaven with a shout, with the voice of a chief messenger, and with the trumpet of Elohim, and the dead in Messiah shall rise first.
The blast of the shofar, the Yom Teruah.
And rapture us all the way, right?
Oh, yeah, well, then we get raptured. No, we don't. So, Seth,
Yes.
Joel.
This is actually a song from, what you call it? What's that name?
That's right, that is right.
Yeah. It's like in my head right now. I'm not going to sing
well,
it.
sing it to.
No.
Come on, sing it to us, buddy.
Yeah. Blow a shofar in Zion and sound an alarm in my set apart mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the earth tremble, for the day of Yahuah is coming, for it is near. A day of darkness and gloom, a day of clouds and thick darkness, like the morning clouds spread over the mountains, a people many and strong, the like of whom is never been, nor shall there be ever again after them, to the years of many generations.
So there we have 3 examples of the last trump when Yahushua comes back. So every single festival, Yahushua has already done the first 3. Those have already been performed by him, right? He was the Pesach, he was the unleavened bread, and he was the first fruits. Now we go into the fall feast. He will be the king that is announced by the shofar blast when he arrives. And on the 10th day, listen, on the 10th day of this 7th month, exactly 6 months after the choosing of the Lamb, on the 10th day of the 7th new moon is Yom HaKippurim. It shall be a set apart gathering for you, and you shall afflict yourselves, and you shall bring an offering made by fire to Yahuah. You do no work on that same day, for it is Yom Kippurim, to make atonement for you before your Elohim, Yahuah. For any being who is not afflicted on that same day, he shall be cut off from his people. And any being who does any work on that same day, that being I shall destroy from the midst of his people. You do no work. It is a law forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings. Where are you dwelling today? We're in America. We're in Egypt. We're back in Egypt.
Do the wilderness, right?
We're in the wilderness. Some are still out in the wilderness. So no matter where you are, it says, it is a Sabbath of rest to you, and you shall afflict your beings on the 9th day of the new moon at evening. When does the day start? At evening. Same thing that it tells you in Genesis. It's the same thing that he instructs you in Exodus concerning the Pesach. You eat unleavened bread from the evening of the first day till the evening of preparation day, all the way till the evening of the 7th day.
And I think it couldn't be clearer.
Mm-hmm.
From evening to evening.
From evening to evening. So
on the 9th day of the new moon, at evening, from evening to evening, you observe your Sabbath. I mean, that's just a reiteration of what a day is in Yahweh's time.
But also too is that on the 9th day, at the evening of that day.
That's right. That's when the 10th day starts.
Okay.
So at evening, on the 9th day, at evening, you go into the 10th day. And when it's evening the next day, I keep hitting that today. at the evening of the 10th day, Yom HaKippurim is done, and that's why on Yom Kippur we're like. And I want to tell you something, guys. It doesn't say anywhere here that you can't eat and you can't drink, but that is how we afflict ourselves. But now listen, if Yom Kippur falls on Shabbat, you can't fast because there's no fasting on Shabbat. It's a feast day. It's a weekly feast day, right? I mean, we talked about this some years ago, but where did the fasting come from?
The Jews.
Kaylin? Your
Yeah.
favorite group.
Talmud.
The Talmud. So how do you afflict yourselves? It can be different for different people.
I was going to say that's a completely different. Again, it's a personal journey.
Yes, it is.
What
It
afflicts
is.
me may not afflict you.
Yeah.
If I'm left in the house all day for 24 hours and I never see the sun, I'm a happy man. If my wife is left in the house all day for 24 hours and doesn't see the sun, she's afflicted.
I'm afflicted too.
Just
I'm
saying.
with you. I'm like, I'm at peace when I'm outside. There's just something about it
I
that
am what I want to be.
calms me. So
Everything in context, what it actually means in the grant. Okay, so we've done had trumpets, we've done announced it's coming, right? And so now we're on atonement, which would be right before we enter into that 1,000-year millennial reign, right? Isn't that what Sukkot
Yes.
represent?
But, well, in Yom HaKippurim, the final Yom Kippur will be at the end of the 1,000-year millennial reign. It's a judgment day.
Right.
So at the end of the millennial reign, Jubilees. Do you know where in Jubilees it talks about the Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement?
Ooh.
So guys, it's 16. Would you open it and read it? So God, okay, so we've got our Savior, our King comes back for us. The dead arise. So
I was just looking to make sure that we were still connected.
are we?
We are.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay, so we go into the millennial reign. At the end of the millennial reign, we have Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur will last for 7 years. Are you there yet, Seth? It is a day when there's no wind, there's no sun, there's no moon, there's nothing. This is 7 years of judgment. Have you found it?
No, man.
What's wrong with you?
This is Jubilees.
It's in Jubilees. Oh, I don't know why I'm doing all this.
Yeah, you got your
I got my little book.
little bunch.
My book of feasts.
Little buggy.
So while she's looking for that, show of hands, because I was stunned when I learned this. How many people knew that a rainbow is a circle? Nobody?
I think
Shay's nodding yes. I think he might know.
I think I've seen it on something that it is. It just fades.
Yeah, so from the Earth perspective, you can only see the bow. But when you're in the air from a plane, you can actually see that the rainbow is a complete circle. It's a perfect sphere. I had no idea. I just learned that.
I did not know that.
I think I've seen a picture of it where it just shows that it's really light on bottom.
Yeah.
You can always, yeah.
Yeah, it's brighter in the top, but you can see it's a complete sphere from the air. It's really cool. I never went my whole life without knowing
It's been
that.
like a long time.
Can you really if you do it
A
like
full
up in the
circle?
air? That makes sense. Yeah,
It
because
could
you'd have
be.
the full prism.
It says
It goes specifically into Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement.
You're on the right page. What's your first Jubilees on there?
34:18.
34:18. Let me see here.
What's one in Leviticus 25:9, and so cause the shofar, the jubilee to sound on the 10th day of the 7th month
Yeah,
in
it's
Yom
34:18.
Kippur. They make the shofar sound throughout all year long.
Is it 34:18?
Jubilees 34:18. For this reason, it is ordained for the children of Yasharel that they should afflict themselves on the 10th of the 7th month, on the day that the news which made him weep for Yosef came to Yaakov his father, that they should make atonement for themselves thereon with a young goat on the 10th of the 7th month, once a year, for their sins, for they had grieved the affection of their father regarding Yosef his son.
This actually goes into the fullness of
Why?
how long it lasts.
Yeah, this one goes further than that. And this day has been ordained that they should grieve thereon for their sins, and for all their transgressions, and for all their errors, so that they might cleanse themselves on that day once a year. And after Joseph perished, the sons of Yaakov took unto themselves women. And it just goes into the tribes.
Yeah, I'm not having good luck with all my verses today. So Yom Kippur is literally a 7-day feast, and it's in the Sefer.
Nice bow.
Hmm?
Nice bow.
I'd have to look.
But it's 7 days without wind or anything. We'll pull that up. Why have I not
That
got
has to be
any
an
of these
apocryphal book, one of the
5:17.
books of the Sefer.
of Jubilees?
Yeah, try 5:17.
It's in Ezra, 4th Ezra 7:40.
Why don't you read that? What does 4th Ezra 40 say? You say 740?
Yes. A day that has no sun or moon or stars,
That's it.
or cloud or thunder, or lightning or wind, or water or air, or darkness or evening or morning, or summer or spring, or heat or winter, or frost or cold, or hail or rain or dew, or noon or night, or dawn, or shining, or brightness, or light, but only the splendor and glory of Elyon, which all shall see what has been determined for them.
For
That is it.
For it will last about a week of years. This is my judgment and its prescribed order, and to you alone have I shown these things.
So to Ezra, he showed exactly what Yom Kippur is. Would you start back at the front? And what chapter is that for?
It was 30, 39. 739 through basically 45.
Okay, start at 39, just in case I didn't hear.
Okay. So for Ezra or 2nd Ezra 7:38. Look on this side and on that. Here are delight and rest, and there are fire and torments. Thus he will speak to them on the day of judgment, a day that has no sun or moon or stars, or cloud or thunder or lightning, or wind or water or air, or darkness or evening or morning, or summer or spring, or heat or winter, or frost, or cold or hail or rain or dew, or noon or night, or dawn, or shining or brightness or light, but only the splendor of the glory of Elyon, by which all shall see what has been determined for them. For it will last about a week of years. This is my judgment and its prescribed order, and to you alone have I shown these things. I answered and said, O Yahuah Sebaot, I said then and I say now, blessed are those who are alive and guard your commandments.
And guard your commandments. This is the Day of Atonement. The final Day of Atonement at the end of the millennial reign will last for 7 years, and there is nothing. I mean, can you imagine nothingness except for the hearing of what you did?
I saw that in a movie once. I think Neo and Morpheus were sitting on the scorched earth, darkened sky. Imagine it's something like that.
Yeah, like nothingness, just absolute nothingness. Just, I'm wondering, does everything play in front of you and all your friends are seeing it and you're like, oh, I'm so ashamed. But this will be the final Yom Kippur. It will be at the end of that 1,000 millennial reign. So you do no work on that day. It is Yom Kippur to make atonement for you before Yahweh. Thank you, Kaylin, for finding that. For any being who is not afflicted on that same day, he shall be cut off. Any being who does any work on that same day, that being shall be destroyed from the midst of his people. Okay, so we see what the Yom Kippur is. We've established what time it starts at evening till evening. Okay, 34. Speak to the children of Yasharel, saying, on the 15th day of the 7th new moon is the festival of Sukkot for 7 days to Yahweh. So after we go through Yom Kippur, and one day when we go through the final Yom Kippur, those books will be closed. So for the 10 days leading up to Yom Kippur, guess what you're doing? You're repenting. You're getting rid of all the leaven that's left in your life. And realistically, that's what the first day of each month is supposed to be for. The first day is a set-apart day. It's a Sabbath. It's a restart. It's to get rid of everything you did the month before, repent for it. Listen, don't wait a full year and just do it on Yom Kippur. Get rid of it each month as it's fresh in your mind. Repent, turn back to Yah, get a fresh start. That's what the first day of the month is. It is a Sabbath to everyone. So on the 15th of the 7th new moon is Sukkot, and this is where we all came together and we camped last year.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us got rained out. On the first day, it's a set-apart gathering. You do no work. For 7 days, you bring an offering made by fire to Yahweh. On the 8th day, there will be a set-apart gathering for you, and you shall bring an offering made by fire to Yahweh. It is a closing festival, so it's a separate festival unto itself, Jack. You do no servile work. It's called Shemini Azaret, and it is literally means the 8th day. What does 8 stand for?
New beginning.
What is it?
New beginning.
A new beginning? What else does it stand for?
Infinity.
Infinity, eternity. On that 8th day, we go in. It's like y'all saying, we had such a great time during Sukkot. It was so good to live with all of you. Let's just carry it into forever. And so the 8th day is when we forever, when he finally comes down, he and Yahushua sit on the throne, and they reign over us in the new kingdom. These are the appointed times of Yahuah, which you proclaim as set-apart gatherings to bring an offering made by fire to Yahweh, an ascending offering and a grain offering, a slaughtering and drink offering. And besides the Sabbaths of Yahweh, and besides your gifts, and besides all the vows, and besides your voluntary offerings which you give to Yahweh on the 15th day of the 7th new moon, when you gather in the fruit of the land, celebrate the festival of Yahweh for 7 days. On the first day is a rest, and on the 8th day a rest. And you shall take for yourselves on the first day fruit of good trees, branches of palm trees, twigs of leafy trees, willows of the stream. And you shall rejoice before Yahweh your Elohim for 7 days. You shall celebrate it as a festival to Yahweh for 7 days in the year, a law forever in your generations. Celebrate it at the 7th new moon. Dwell in booths for 7 days. All of you who are native born in Yasharel, dwell in booths. This is the only festival where, if you're in Yasharel, you are commanded to dwell in booths. You can dwell in booths outside of the nation. It's not going to be a curse if you're doing what everyone else is doing in Yasharel. He says, so that your generations know that I made the children of Yasharel dwell in booths when I brought them out of the land of Mitzrayim. I am Yahweh your Elohim. Thus did Moshe speak of the appointed times of Yahweh to the children of Yahweh. So, any questions? And guys, everything is exactly 6 months apart. Our Father is just, he's so precise in everything he does, isn't he? Mm-hmm. So, thank you for all the teamwork and gathering all the verses that I think I got excited during this study, and I was like, oh, I can't wait for this, I can't wait for that. And then I didn't write the verses down. I know what's there. I don't know where to find it, though. That's not good. That's one thing that you Utes have. You Utes. You remember. As old people, we forget the location, but we know what it says. Guys, are there any questions over the feast?
No. I was thinking.
Oh, no, don't be thinking.
You said something about fashion. I know y'all hungry. I'm sorry. But I don't think it does. Never mind. We're good.
You're talking about the afflicting.
Yeah.
So the afflicting oneself, that can be a number of different ways.
I think we're
But
going to stick to the water too, though.
but let me tell you what it's not. It's not sitting there and beating yourself. Yes.
I think you're fly swatting.
Yeah, that's kind of like what it looks like if they've got one of those
Yeah.
long straps and they're beating their back,
Yeah.
bloody. That is not what it is. Abba doesn't tell you to go beat yourself up.
Bind your arm in a cord till the circulation cuts off.
I've never heard of that either, but it doesn't sound like fun. But afflict yourselves in a way that you remember the afflictions of
Denying your flesh.
yes. And it's all about repenting. You can't forget, it's all about the repenting
Yeah,
and the
I like it.
atoning for your sins. Yahushua's hung on the cross for how long? From the 6th hour to the 9th hour? Is that how long it was?
It was a full day, wasn't it?
Was it a full day? Was it from the 3rd hour?
Well, it was from 3 p.m. until, no, it was before dawn, or before dusk, because the centurion,
So it was from 3 from the 6th hour to the 9th hour.
Somewhere in
So from noon to 3 and then they put him in the grave before sunset. He was on the cross for 3 days. You can afflict yourself one day. Give it something that you love. If you're a smoker, don't smoke for a day. And I hope well, there's no smokers left in here. If you like candy, don't eat candy for the day. But I'm talking about afflict yourselves. Give it something you really, really enjoy. Okay? Carbs. Aye. So guys, these are forever commandments. If you're his children, you're going to follow them and you're going to honor his commandments. No ifs, ands, or buts. He says if you're not, you're cast out of the camp. This is what he tells us. So he is not specific on where we do them. Except for the if you're in the land, you're supposed to dwell in booths. And on every apartment, they make a sukkah on the outside of the apartment. I mean, they put sukkahs everywhere there. Here, we don't have to do that, but I think it's nice to do it. I don't see anywhere where it says it's a curse if you
It
do
doesn't
it.
mention the land, it mentions the people.
yeah.
Yasharel born, not
Yes.
born in Yasharel.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah. For this reason, it is ordained for the children of Yasharel.
The native born in Yasharel to dwell in booths. So if you're born in Yasharel,
But Sefer just says Yasharel born, so as in you're from the nation.
so
not
you're
born in
of the people.
Yeah.
So if you're actually bloodline of Yasharel, you
Or grafted
dwell in
in.
booths. So it would be anywhere you were. So wherever you are, you dwell in booths. So if you're grafted in, we're also supposed to dwell in booths.
I mean, I guess native born would mean maybe not grafted in.
No, you're changing your mind. You can't be doing that.
Well, it doesn't say don't dwell in booths, so
No,
I
it
don't see any
doesn't.
prohibition against it.
No.
If you're native born, you will, and
It's
otherwise,
a
We would have no
commandment.
way of knowing if
no.
our bloodline is
So
traces
hey,
back. So.
we're going to dwell in booths just to be safe,
There you go.
right? What you talking about over there?
Oh, we're talking about.
Okay, guys, you know what? We prayed before. We didn't pray after we started.
Oh,
You want to pray us out?
sure.
Since you missed it before.
I can do that. Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this lesson, and we thank you for the opportunity to fellowship together. As we get ready to go downstairs, we ask you to bless the food and nourish our bodies with it. We ask you to be with us this week. Give us opportunities to plant seeds and to water seeds that are already planted. Father, bring people into our lives that you would like to wake up, and help us to be present in the Holy Spirit so that you can speak through us as a vessel and speak to those people. We ask you to keep us all safe, put a hedge of protection around us as we go throughout our daily lives. Just give us the opportunity to think and dwell upon your precepts and your commandments this week, Father. Give us the opportunity to reflect on our own behaviors and to continue to get the leaven out of our lives, even though we're past unleavened bread. Father, we ask you to just be with us, to help us to focus on that which you would have us see, and let your Spirit just guide us in all the things that we do today and throughout this week. We ask this in the name of your precious Son, Yahushua HaMashiach. We praise you and bless you, Father. We exalt your name. Amen.
I've got one more verse for you. Just one more. I know. Adam Fink. Just one more. I did say there's one law for all. 24, verse 22. You are to have one right ruling for the stranger and for the native, for I am Yahuah your Elohim. One law for everyone. It's not just for Yasharal. And it's especially not just for the tribe of Yehudah.
It's in Numbers 12:15.
Yes, it's also in Numbers 15:16. It's where it also is. And there's another place it's located. So 3 times he says there's one law for everyone who chooses, listen, who chooses to be Yasharal. If you don't choose to be Yasharal, and if you're not following his commandments, you're not going to get into the kingdom.
Amen.
I mean,
People don't know that because they don't listen.
they don't listen.
Which are people, no land, that's it.
That's right. That's right. Okay.
They don't because they just go to church. There's 2 different pew sitters. There's somebody that researches stuff after someone says something, and then there's somebody that just say, well, I went to church on Sunday.
And they're there for a social event.
We understand.
And the natives are getting restless, so we're going to say Shabbat.
That's
Shalom. Wait, hey. What was that? What was that? Shabbat. Shalom. Shalom, guys. Have a blessed day. Oh, I can't even find it.
I'll take care of that for you. Let's see here. There it is.
I'm talking more now.